Welcome back to the Corey Shepherd podcast. This is episode 44. Welcome back to everybody who's been listening. Welcome to all the new listeners. Thank you for everybody who's been subscribing. I appreciate it. So, reminder again to subscribe on your favorite apps, whichever podcast app, wherever you get podcasts or you listen to audiobooks, you can subscribe. And remember to check it out on YouTube as well. Changes coming there. So, I hope everybody had a great week. This, for us in Trinidad, was a very long Easter weekend. School officially closed. We had a long weekend to relax and enjoy. What we enjoy, boy? We didn't really enjoy too much of free. Well, we enjoy some freedom, because we in a unique phase of this COVID-19 again. I don't know. You remember when they used to talk a lot about first wave and second wave and them things? Again, we in a false sense of reality here because we didn't have that kind of first wave, second wave. I don't know if they still count that based on what you see everywhere globally. But maybe I could call this Trinidad real second wave because I saw up to the time we're recording, like we have 42 new cases. Sunday gone, total cases is 358. Unfortunately, some rises in the death toll as well. Condolences to everybody who would have lost people during these times. Rough times, right? But the changes coming, like I said last week, the boss said we can't afford no more lockdowns, but I'm not sure if we acting that way because the beaches end up being a place. Well, it's Easter weekend, so you had to expect that the beaches, a lot of people going to be there. And I'm starting to wonder now, of course, hindsight being 2020, should they have just said the beaches closed just for 4 days? I was talking to a fellow about this today. Maybe the best thing to do for the weekend was to have a little more of a lockdown, a little more of a closing our ranks so that we not congregate and force us to not congregate, especially by the rivers and beaches where people would want to congregate on an Easter weekend when things are normal. But of course, we nowhere near normal. So when you see the amount of people, like there was traffic, my good partner Brian here, man, check out this podcast, right? Brian's viewpoints. Everywhere mine available, his own available. But he was saying that he was coming from Grandy on, that would have been Sunday. And it's traffic heading down Manzan side. We all saw little videos coming from all the beaches where it was crowded. I don't know if you only get a chance to see Alexander on the beach in full, what do you call that boy? Inspector uniform. What is the Bronx suit? The Bronx suit is inspectors. But Alexander's on the beach playing small goal. Or, you know what I mean? You remember when long time you used to tell a man, come for it now. He's on the beach doing that in full uniform and what looking like a gun strap onto this man's hip. He playing football. The next clip I see he playing cricket or trying to bowl a ball at some people. It didn't look good. I feel Johnny Bravo should try him there. Maybe forget the hand wrestling and the fighting and thing, and maybe Johnny Bravo could catch him in some real sports. But the beaches, I think, would always have people like culturally, that is who we are. We want to go by the beach and lime or make a river lime. Would it have been a better idea to just force people to stop that? So you have 4 days of lockdown where business would have been slowish anyway on them 4 days. And that would have given us more freedom going forward. Because, boy, I feel we headed for a lockdown. Boy, I don't want to put goat mouths or anything. I'm frightened. But I feel we headed for a lockdown. I myself started to get a little more stringent with my own ways and making sure that I'm doing the right thing. Because the numbers rising again. And they're charging Central for having plenty numbers too. So the one thing that has changed is that recreational sports no longer allowed. You can't take a sweat, no more basketball. Now, a little bit of an odd one for me because I would think that the places, but I guess you see the notion is always that the beaches have an outdoor thing and they're big enough for people to social distance. But when we go by the beach and we pay in a few, we ain't distancing from nothing. We it's closeness we looking for. But anyhow, sweat done for a while. Although, I mean, I was sweating, like, you know what I mean? I'm going to take on that. When the first time in lockdown, nobody knows that. But no more sweat. And with 42 new cases on Sunday and the beaches looking the way they look, I could only think that more cases going to arise over the next few weeks. Also saying that because I was in Tobago last week. So while I say in Tobago by the beach, but we had initially planned to go Easter weekend, but we couldn't get a place. But I guess all places booked out or flights would be booked out or whatever. So we went during the week. We went, I think I went on the Monday and came back the Thursday. And by Thursday, the beach, Pigeon Point it was starting to get full. Storby had people and Pigeon Point by Thursday. We went Pigeon Point 2 days, maybe the Tuesday and the Thursday. And by Thursday, there's plenty people on Pigeon Point. Not like ram cram, but it showed me what the weekend was likely to be. Because if that was the Thursday, the Holy Thursday, no holiday. The Tuesday was a holiday, and I suppose they had some people there at the time, but not as much as Thursday when the Trinis coming in. Now, Caribbean Airlines ain't flying no ATR to go to Tobago, you know. They put on a, what is called a Boeing, whatever it is a jet. They had to go upstairs to get the Tobago flight. So which means to me, they probably put on more flights and accommodate more people over there. And that's good to an extent because I suppose it would boost the business that happened in Tobago and people will be glad for it. You can see people get happy to get their cars rented, food sell, houses rented, you know what I mean? Good for the economy. But when you have that amount of people going over there and when you're there, what you're going to do is lime and congregate. Nobody going to Tobago for no solitary meditation is lime. So if Thursday we had so much people on the beach, I could only imagine what Good Friday, Glorious Saturday, the Sunday, the Monday. I could even imagine what them days look like on the beach. But I must say that the police in Tobago, every day I was by the beach, the police passed. That's Pigeon Point and Storby. The police were present. Now, did they ask anybody anything? Did they come and see who was wearing mask and who wasn't wearing mask? They didn't do none of that, but it was present. So I have to assume in my absence from Friday to Monday, I had to give them the benefit of the doubt and say that they went and do the right thing where social distancing concerned. A little awkward thing on Pigeon Point too. When you rent chairs like up by Maracas, so I know a lot of people went Pigeon Point. But most of the beaches chair rental and what's called not tent, but umbrella rental and thing, right? So what they do is when you rent your chairs and thing and you with your people, they pong some stakes in the ground like red stakes. And you're not supposed to go in between. You're supposed to walk in between the red stakes. You ain't supposed to pass or go in. So in other words, they make a square. Don't break this square then. Pass wrong people. Boy, listen, that wasn't making no sense. All it make is for the beach to look ugly with one set of thing. The stake coming out of the ground about 4 or 5 feet up. I say, but how this is some kind of deterrent? We go in any water, we come in. But anyway, let's hope that they do the right thing and the police help them maintain it, because as individuals, we're not really going to maintain it like that. We need policing, right? But I anticipate that we probably leading into a case of more cases going to come based on what I see. By the time I left Tobago, cases was rising in Tobago too. We went to a little spot too, right? I ain't calling no names or no places, protecting the innocent or the guilty. But I went to a little spot and they have a restaurant in the back and a bar in the front. And listen, that bar, they say bars could sell alcohol, but you can't drink at the bar. Men was drinking in the bar. Ben Lyman outside the bar. Man had a little thing rolling outside the bar. And police was passing too. So I say, but what is this? Is this like fat swing in here? Nobody ain't studying nothing. And then somewhere around 10 o'clock, the man in the bar or the DJ make an announcement. All right, guys, it's 10 o'clock. The police will think so. If you're not buying drinks, we needed to come out of the bar now. I said, but what the hell is this? So I didn't know that's how it worked. I didn't know it about time thing while other men bar closed since, because it ain't making no sense. But around 10, the music went down low and apparently whoever was in the bar had to go outside. But there was no social distancing there, no mask, nothing. So we had to brace ourselves. But again, vaccines here. While I was over there, I see something on social media with trailer and police and the full works, and apparently we have 30-something thousand AstraZeneca vaccines in the spot. So this is good news, regardless of what we talk a lot about it and how disorganized it was. It didn't seem to be either it's not an organized approach or them fellas don't want to tell me what exactly happened. But we have vaccines here, so that's a good sign, and it at least means that even as we not doing the right thing, I think we have a little bit of our exit with the vaccines coming into the country. But of course, nothing is run smooth in this Twin Island Republic. Everything have a story behind it. Every single thing you could think of. So I'm reading from the news there, right? This is Rihanna McKenzie from the news. It is on the 31st of March. Minister of Health Terence D'Alsing says that the phase 1 rollout of the AstraZeneca vaccine, which arrived in Trinidad on Tuesday, will begin on April 6th. Now, this podcast releasing on April 6th, right? So by this time, people getting vaccinated, by the time you're hearing this. D'Alsing was speaking at the Ministry of Health press conference on Wednesday. Both D'Alsing and the Prime Minister will receive the vaccine on April 6th. I wonder if they're going to put it on TV and thing. All I see how much thing going wrong where people claim, I see they do it with Jamaica Prime Minister with Andrew Holness, saying that it's not a real vaccine he take. I don't know why people say, They men going to take the real vaccine, man. CMO Dr. Roshan Parasram said the vaccines arrived safely and were kept between 2.1 and 2.3 degrees Celsius throughout the journey to the C40 storage facility in Chagaramas. But here is part, right? The vaccines will expire on May 31st, he said, which gives the ministry 8 weeks from the arrival date. 8 weeks from the date of arrival from the start of the use to the end of use of the second dose. Let me try and figure out what I mean. The vaccines will expire on May 31st, he said, which gives the ministry 8 weeks from the date of arrival. I think from the date of arrival from the start of the use of the... It given us 8 weeks to use the vaccine. And that is for both doses, right? Because it expired on the 31st of May. He said initially, AstraZeneca had said 21 to 28 days for the second dose, which we can achieve with this particular dose. He said, however, the new WHO recommendation is 8 to 12 weeks. Now, think about this, right? If we have this vaccine starting on the 6th of April as day 1, and we have it expiring on the 31st of May, it means we don't have 12 weeks between the 6th of April and the 31st of May. So what we ended up is a situation where that first dose and that second dose not happening. And I end up clarifying that, right? Like coming out and saying what the deal is, right? So from the 6, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have just over 8 weeks. And the thing saying 8 to 12 weeks to do this thing. So it means that if somebody get vaccinated tomorrow, or let's say you get vaccinated on the 6th, the next day you could safely get vaccinated might be very, very close to the 31st. If you use the 8-week threshold. If you use the 12 weeks, them thing gonna expire. So apparently what we're gonna get is 32,000 first dose, because I don't think it even makes sense trying to vaccinate people twice with this batch of thing. I feel it making sense. Because the people say they're trying to go 1,000 a day, which is 32 days to get people their first dose. Or 16 days to get people their first dose if you're looking at just doing that initial dose. And then call back them same 16,000 people between the 28th and the 31st. That's not happening, right? They're never going to get that done in that space of time. So timing is a problem. Apparently this thing going to expire on we hand, so it's better you give as much people as possible that first shot. Now, my question is this. Are we going to get another shipment by the 28th to the 31st when people are ready for their second shot? Here we're frightened for too. Is it going to be AstraZeneca? If you get AstraZeneca first shot, you could use a Moderna second shot? How does it work? Well, I think Johnson & Johnson is one dose. So suppose you get the first shot from AstraZeneca. You could, and the second batch never come. You could just go and take a Moderna, like they could extract the first shot from you and just get a Moderna. I don't know how this is working. But however it's working, it's not sounding like if it's an organized approach. It's not sounding like if people have it together where it is concerned. It's a real, this is what COVID was for all of us, but for the people in charge who doing this, it's sounding like real figures out as we go along. First, the idea was to give people a full dose, which would be the 2, but that clearly not happening. So I'm very eager. I'll be listening this week to find out what's the plan. Because I think they should change our plan one time and say, listen, we're going to give 32,000 people their first dose. And then let us know that by the 25th of May, we're going to have another batch coming in of about 100,000. So we could give that 32,000 their second dose. And then the next, according to the regime, the balance, we could give them their first dose or whatsoever. I don't know. It's real strange, but also, like in doing research about vaccines and understanding how vaccines work more, understand that like any other vaccine, the idea is to mimic the disease in your body or the virus so that it gives your immune system a glimpse of what it's like and prepare it to fight it. It's like, a small gym. So your immune system getting ready. But because all of them develop in different places, I'm pretty sure it's not going to be as effective if you take one dose from somebody and the next dose from somebody else. That's something like a disaster. Add to that the fact that a lot of people, a friend of mine in Guyana was saying, I saw her put on Facebook that she get the vaccine. And everybody was cool, nobody wasn't sick or nothing, but she get very, very sick. So it's almost like your body reacting to the thing there. It feels like you have a dose of the COVID. And she was real ill. So who would want to take that chance of getting vaccinated now if we can't complete the vaccination process within the necessary time? Because my next question is this. If I take that first dose now, and then within 8 to 12 weeks, there's no second dose available for me, does it make that first dose null and void? Or do you have another window within which to take the second dose? They're saying 8 to 12 weeks before you get the second one. But is it that between that time you have a 4-week window or 8-week window or a year where you could go and get the second dose? I don't know. I'm trying to find out online and not seeing much. So somebody needs to help me with that. But I guess vaccines here. So we could at least be happy about that part. Now, I promised some time ago not to make these things a whole COVID episode, but a few things again I'm concerned about. Let me go back to this idea of no more sweat, right? Recreational sports closed off. But I'm trying to understand, and this is what I was saying with the lockdown since it happened last time. Like, there's no clear process of, to me, the hierarchy of what are the most risky events or things that we do versus the least risky. So that we know how we scale up in terms of locking down and how we scale down in terms of opening up. So when they say sports lockdown, I had to assume that either number one, the last set of cases they get come out of sporting activities, which I find to be real reactive and not necessarily not necessarily effective, because I think you should go based on what are the highest risk things, which is what they said in the beginning. That's why cinemas were locked down so early, because people sitting down next to one another, all this type of thing. So sports, I don't know when sports become such a high risk. And then I had to ask, is outdoor exercise like groups and thing, they allowed to go ahead? Because then what's the plan? What they going to do? They're going to exercise with masks and social distance and not touch each other and all that kind of thing? I'm not sure. Are gyms still open during this period of time? Because all that is heavy breathing, and I guess in the gym you have a little bit of opportunity to separate from one another. While sports might have more contact. I guess maybe that's a reason sports are contact and thing, while the others, you could possibly control it. And then again, the things like church, religious festivals, which could be real contact. We just come off for one recently. And also restaurants, and they're still open. So one of the earliest things that happened last time when they really started feeling stringent lockdown was when restaurants were closed fully for dining first, and then eventually closed in total. So it's like, what's the plan? Because it's clear that the cases on the rise again and we're facing more lockdowns. But I think it would be nice to know, okay, if we hit X amount of cases, this is what we're going to do. If the spread comes from these areas, this is how we're going to manage it. Because I hear more and more spread or a grocery getting closed. It sounds so familiar, like what was happening last year where a grocery and Pennywise and Price Smart and thing end up getting closed because of cases and the banks and so on. So it's like we have no idea. And I'm feeling like this is my gripe about the whole thing. Is feel like if they have a bunch of children who waiting to hear from their parents if they have permission to go and play or not. I ain't talking about just play sport, play in general. We wait and say, okay, tomorrow what it have, and who he wearing, and what was the plan, and is the Prime Minister coming to talk, or it's just Parasram and them handling it. I find it's so archaic and it's a long time, and it's like, again, it's like children and parents or kings and subjects, where we are not privy to the plan of any plan. We're not privy to what the plan is for the vaccines. We're not privy to what the plan is where lockdown or opening up is concerned, we kind of at the mercy of the powers that be. And I mean, I don't want to split the Yankee rhetoric, right? Because Yankees really don't like government control and things, but I starting to get very wary of that. Because one thing about control, where people in power, it could scale up gradually in terms of how much control they have and how much power they have over the citizens and so on. But it don't ever scale back, So that post-COVID, you tend to find that it's some of the same things where a man could decide the border closed, this, that, the other. Anyway, talking about the border, congrats to Caribbean Airlines. I saw an article come up with Caribbean Airlines this week, and they won an award for the safety protocol. So let me read this. This is from The Guardian last week, right? Caribbean Airlines has become the first regional air carrier to be awarded platinum certification by Apex Health Safety, powered by Simply Flying, for its efforts in ensuring the high... reading is a real problem. Let me try this again, right? Caribbean Airlines has become the first regional air carrier to be awarded platinum certification by Apex Health Safety, powered by Simply Flying, for its efforts in ensuring the highest standards of cleanliness and sanitization for its customers' health and well-being health and wellness while traveling. One day I will get to learn to read. An official statement from the airline reports that the certification was granted following a comprehensive month-long audit of the airline's COVID-19 protocols. Now, I don't know what the protocol is supposed to be for airline, right? Me know nothing about that. But all I can tell you about is my experience going to Tobago, right? So first, you had to get it 2 hours earlier. Which, if you go into Tobago, we are accustomed to reaching there 5 minutes before. We ain't trying to do that international flying thing. But anyway, you're going there 2 hours before. Otherwise, you could get bumped off your flight. That's why I'm here. So I was there pretty early. It's an early morning flight. And when I got there, the first thing I noticed change is that you had to go upstairs. So my first thought was, okay, the reason you're going upstairs is because if going to Tobago, where it's going the downstairs departure area there, is much smaller. So I tell myself, well, they're using upstairs because upstairs ain't much use. There are no flights leaving the country like that and no flights coming in. So upstairs, free-ish. So when we going up there now, again, the first sad thing I see is all the places in duty-free closed there, but I'm assuming that is maybe because of how early the flight was. Hopefully some of them things open during the course of the day. But when you get up there, they did have stewards and things. So when you get up and you're in the middle, they have a big walkway down the middle. They had people pointing you there to where to sit. If you were in a group together, they put you together to sit down, and the seats had the markers as well. I find that was pretty sweet. I say, well, Caribbean Airlines ain't making no joke. Now, I don't remember sanitizing, like having to sanitize before I took out you had to take out the laptop and the belt and the shoes and all that. You didn't have to do that. And I found that a little strange because if you know how that works, sometimes they're handing you a container to put your stuff in, you handing it back to them when you handling it, and then somebody had to take it and put it back and stuff. But let me assume that when I say the employees themselves who they must be taking the most precaution in the world because they must feel very, very high at risk. But without that, the seating arrangement, you could see that there was a lot of thought put into the way to do it. But what I found strange was we then joined a line to go onto the plane where social distancing was at a minimum. You all know how when they call your flight and the seat numbers and them thing, how people is line up, people is be close to one another. So they do the normal thing where they call rows X to X. So they call from 20 to 32. One thing they do that make real sense, and I find they should do this going forward, COVID or no COVID, is why don't they call flights and fill the plane from the back? It makes so much more sense. Like, call the last rows first instead of putting, like, you're trying to book, sending the people with in first class and then business class and then priority booking and all that is the front of the plane. Like, if you send everybody down in the back first, I would think it's a smoother flow onto the thing. But and then beyond that, it also gives a certain level of privacy to your business class people and things where people ought to be walking past them to see all who pay for first class or business class. But anyway, they did that and they called them in groups. And then the groups will line up and people kind of forget. There had no markers on the ground or nothing like that. And people kind of look like they forget. So everybody was close, you know. So I find that was strange after having you sit separately and now you're in this line, everybody close. But what was even more strange was to go on the flight, because I assume if you do all this in the airport and everybody at a distance like that, I thinking to myself, when you're on the plane, all the middle seats will be empty. Well, which middle seat empty were? Every single seat coming and going on the flight I went on and come back on, all the seats were occupied. Now, we've traveled as three, right? So this didn't affect me much because me, Stacey, and Zachary, three of us sit down together both times. But you ended up sitting down next to strangers. So I'm thinking, like, I mean, we do all this and so where was the point of separating so much if you're going to spend 20 minutes together so close and so tight? It's like, dude, this isn't making sense. But again, on the upside, it was mandated that everybody had to wear their mask. And people, more or less, you know, it still has some people, the mask is only a mustache, they don't cover their whole nose. And some people, the mask is a beard, they don't cover nose or more. A little bit of that, but for the most part, everybody kept on their mask for the whole flight. And it was relatively smooth. Again, we come off the plane, there was not much guidance as to how to social distance to leave. No, I shouldn't say that. They do a real good thing when they were leaving the flight. They call row by row. So they say, when we call your row, then you get up and get your bags and head out. Okay, you know what we like to do? As the plane land, all of we stand up down the middle of the thing and just spread COVID coming and going. But they didn't do that. So they call row 28. They wait for everybody. When they see the people come up to the front, they say, all right, 29, you go ahead. I would have thought that was a better way to board the plane too. So to say, hey, you in row this, row that. But again, I'm not sure if that'll work because of the amount. You know, people late and last minute. If you call a row, when you're leaving the plane and you call a row, you know everybody in 28 leaving. When you're trying to get people on a plane and you call 28, it's all kind of confusion could happen. So you see that is that. Now, when you reach any baggage part, because remember, it's not regular Tobago flight where you could just, you know, there are some flight on the ATR. When you come off and you walk downstairs, they have a rack with your bags and thing right there. So it's minimal amount of collecting of bags when you go inside. But this time, there are plenty of bags to collect because it's a jet. Everybody, a lot of checked bags. And in the area where you have to collect your bag now, everybody tight and close to one another again is a strange thing. So it make me reflect on this article now, and I start to wonder about what the other airlines in the region doing. If Caribbean Airlines is the only people to win this award, and it seemingly have so much gaps in their process that where you're going good all the time and then you come and you spread it right then and there, and then you know, problem. But again, congratulations to them for winning the Platinum Award. I'm glad to hear that. Leah at all step up on the game now. Why Caribbean Airlines must win this and only win it? Or a regional airline get in the game so that we safer as we start back traveling and we go back to travel. Also, I keep an eye on this. I hope somebody could give me the info. I'm not sure if those jets were used for Tobago just because it was Easter weekend and they had like excess or a lot of people traveling, or if it's something that they're doing in the interim, or if they're warming up the planes for longer flights because the border opens soon. I ain't sure, but we'll see. Before we come off for Tobago, right, I want to again commend the style. The style is my little runaway. You know, I find like I reset my whole life when I touch Tobago a little bit and chill. So I want to commend them too for just being as beautiful as Tobago is. Boy, listen, it's something that all of us need to do. Tobago is definitely the new Miami. Everybody over there just bouncing up more and more people as you go. And I hope that even when the borders open up, I myself, I put in this to myself so that I just visit Tobago more and grow off more. Like, there's so much in Tobago that I never see. Like, I went to Englishman's Bay. This is the first time I ever went there. And I never went to Castara either. So I would have gone to, like, you know, the drive to go Charlottesville. That might be the furthest I ever went in Tobago, but I never went on the North Coast run, really. I think I went Palatuve once. I can't remember, but it was real nice going to Englishman's Bay. A real nice beach. I mean, it was a little hour drive. I didn't know you could drive. I didn't know outside of Charlottesville you could drive for that long in Tobago, but it was a nice little drive and plenty to see. And Englishman's Bay itself was real nice, but the water was real rough, boy. I think it was just one of them weekends. You know, Easter weekend and the sea is not really a place to play with, you know. So I go on Englishman's Bay, boy, and I always say, like, my son was real coward when it comes to water. You know, that man is afraid to swim. He ain't even going. Once it passes any foot, he don't want to go in that water. But we send him a swim class in Chaguanas here, and like, boy, that man get a little too brave, boy. So Englishman's Bay, basically, the water not deep, but it real rough. And the kind of rough where, well, first, if you know Englishman's Bay, the beach itself is on a decline. So you're walking down the sand into the water. And when the waves break and they're breaking close to the shore and they're pulling you back out, boy, here now. And I so frightened with this boy want to go in the water. And he vexed because now we drive for a whole hour and this man is upset because now we by the beach and we can't bathe. I tell him he can't bathe. And I say, well, let me walk in the water a little bit and stand up behind him. So when the waves pulling him back, I could hold him. But I could barely hold up myself. And you know, little Trent, the first thing he do when the wave thing is drop himself on the ground. I say, you see this? This is not for me. It's way too rough. And we eventually come out and think, but I mean, other than that, the scenery was really, really nice. The drive is a nice drive. I accustomed taking that drive coming through Lekoto. Like I tell Stacey, I say, girl, when you drive through Lekoto, you had a, what they say, Lekito. Stop saying Lekoto, right? When you drive through Lekito, boy, you're listening to down your glass and you feel the obia, it's palatable in the air, which you like, you know what I mean? It's a nice thing to grow. You could feel your ancestors in Lekito. Let me say it, let me put it like that. So it's always been nice to pass on that side. But even a guy who I met on Pigeon Point, he said he went to, I can't remember if he said it was Castaro or somewhere, and he said he didn't bathe either. He said he accustomed going to Tobago and making that run, but it was real rough. So when we got back to Pigeon Point, that was the first time I ever see waves like that in Pigeon Point. You know, Pigeon Point is big. Pigeon Point basically sheltered. There are no waves and nothing. And it wasn't like a lot, but when it was coming, it was big waves. Every couple minutes, again, a real big wave in Pigeon Point, which was rare. For me, I've never seen that before. And another thing I saw is the tide was changing so quick. And at a point, Pigeon Point kind of rope off. I supposed to stop you from swimming out with the jet ski and the boats and things past. And we were bathing by that rope because I said, but with this rope right there in the shallow. When an hour or two passed, by the time we look again, we can't stand up. There's very deep at that point in time. So strange weekend. That's what it was, and that's what the waters were like. And I mean, I don't want to go from that to the tragic, but I saw as would happen very, very often. You find that Easter weekend in Trinidad is a time where people lose their life on the beach. I don't know if I'll ever notice that. Like, if you ever see that, somebody who know plenty about the sea might be able to tell me, because maybe it's rough and maybe there's a lot happening around Easter time. And, you know, like even more time to lock down. But I saw something where, I'm not going to focus on the guy who drowned. It's a really, really, really sad story. The guy was a fireman and he went in there to save his niece. Stephen Macano is his name. And this happened down in Mayaro. This would have been on Sunday, Easter Sunday as well. And boy, we had to do better as a society. So on Trinidad Express Instagram page, I'm not going to play the clip, right? Because it's just too sad. And his wife is inconsolable. A matter of fact, the headline on the Instagram post is inconsolable. They go on to say, Patrice Macano writes is consoled by her niece, Narisha Ramkisoon, as she weeps for her husband, drowning victim Stephen Macano at their Mirage Trace home in Gasparillo on Easter Monday. Macano was the married father of two. He was attached to the Savanetta fire station and owned a transport company. His brother also died by drowning in the ocean years ago, relatives say. Police said at around 5:30 p.m., Macano, 39, was on the beachfront of Vicks Avenue, Guayguayari Road, Mayaro, when he saw the bathers in trouble. So I suppose he went out there to help people, and this was so unfortunate. This is how this ended up. But you know what? Where's something wrong with this story? And it's just too sad for me to play the clip, as I say. You had to go to Trinidad Express and watch this. And I mean, don't even, not as we can't feel for the family, but it will break your heart. Because this woman, imagine what that feels like. It's unimaginable, right? But imagine on top of that, a reporter asking you not just what happened, but while you in shambles, that reporter asking you, did you expect that when you were on the way down here, anything like that? You would listen. You would think I talking about this and it's feeling like if I'm making this up. On the way here, did you expect anything like this to happen when you all came down to spend a little time in Miami? That man asked that woman that question. You know. Listen, thank God that clip is only a couple minutes because I can't imagine what were the other questions that he asked. I find the Express should take that clip down too because I don't know if we're getting more and more insensitive as a society, but people mourning and in extreme grief like that. I remember when Ian Allen was the only man who used to show them things. And everybody was against Ian Allen and thing, and they say, boy, it took this and it took gruesome. He used to go through and show dead bodies in the morgue. I think he stopped doing that. He slowed down on that a little bit now. But now it seems to be that mainstream media pick up that role too, where somebody in that type of pain and the best we could do is to put a camera in their face and ask them kind of questions. I mean, we have to do better as a society. And condolences to everybody involved and condolences to the family. And maybe when reporters go on the scene, maybe that's the only thing they should say. Maybe they should just go and say, accept my sympathy. And then find somebody else who is not his grieving wife like that, or somebody who's not as directly involved, and do your reporting work and do your due diligence so you could get the story that you need to publish without using people anguish like that. And not you know, especially with social media and Instagram and the way it is. If you're writing it in a story, is a difference to showing a woman like that. And I mean, what is the value of that question? How the hell you could think that she would have think that something would have happened anyway? Let me come off of that. So too heavy. Let me get back to some light stuff fast. On a lighter note, I personally want to fight Trinidad Killa. I want to fight him, like physically. I want to fight him. I want somebody said, you see how Johnny Bravo and Alexander go and fight? I want to fight Trinidad Killa in real life. I don't know if you see this video Trinidad Killa put out last week. Like, I was talking about Lil Nas X attention seeking. Now, he ain't so bad because they see me and that Devil Road, Lil Nas X want to go down. I don't play them certain games. So if you want to play that game, that is it. But me and the Devil choking Trinidad Killa. The name of the song is Bad Girl Alone, right? Boy, listen. Trinidad Killa make a whole porno on the YouTube. I surprised, like my boy Bert sent me this link about 3-4 different times. I don't know if it's YouTube or who was taking it down, but they wasn't having it with this piece of soft porn. The Penthouse After Dark, Playboy in the Night. You know what I mean? Remember them saying HBO watching late in the night? I eyeball hard, all among other things, and you're taking in real sex in the night. That was Trinidad Killa about. That video, I want to fight him. I just don't want to fight him now. I want to fight every balloon in that video. Like, this man had wanted a helium balloon hung up in our place. I want to fight that chain he have wrong in neck. I want to fight them curtain in that. I want to fight the girls who he put in the thing. Like, where he find this? And this man porn a kind of draws. Boy, listen, I don't know what we come into. And I suppose COVID is real hard times for entertainers and everything. You know what I mean? A man had to find a way to make a living in these times. But Trinidad Killa, this is not it. This is not the way to make that living you're trying to make. This can't be right. I want to fight that girl for licking the remote control. Like, why are we doing this? Why are we licking remote control and thing? And listen, it has some parts of the video. I feel them must bite the bullet and they say, listen, we're making a video. We have to do this thing in real. This was no acting, no. That cameraman must be real uncomfortable because I don't know how to put this in a subtle way, but Killa whole bottom. I don't know if he greased down himself or what does he do? Like, why are we doing this? Why this is how we promoting ourselves, Trinidad Killa? So that is it. You ain't singing no more because you are no bigger fallout with the PNM song thing the last time. And you know what I mean? You give up on that. You ain't singing no more political song again because this is it. It's a wrap after people see this. Boy, listen. You just had to take in this video for yourself. The name of the song is Bad Girl Alone, Trinidad Killa. You'll see it. I don't know if he looking to pop out OnlyFans. I wouldn't be surprised. Like I talked about OnlyFans in the last couple episodes, and I ain't gonna be surprised if that is what Trinidad Killa going overall. But you go and take in this video for yourself at your own peril. Because listen, it's one of the I don't know How this allowed? Like, how they not reporting this on YouTube every single day? It's bad. It's that bad. And maybe I just saying that if everybody in the video was good looking, all right, let me leave that out. Right? Everybody good looking under God, right? Like, you move past Trinidad, Killa. Are you going to take any video for yourself? You tell me what you think about it. And quick, before we get back to some serious things, as we talk about fighting people, let me just put out a list of people I want to fight. I really want to fight Steve Harvey. I don't know if I'll taking this versus. I like more versus, and this versus Isley Brothers versus Earth, Wind and Fire. It seemed to be the first one where they had an audience. I didn't notice if they showed the audience anytime during. I was only seeing the stage. But you could clearly, right? You could clearly hear people singing along and clapping when they perform and stuff. And again, it was more reminiscent of, I wish Babyface and Teddy Riley had the opportunity to do this. Remember when they just started off, they had to do that Instagram split screen thing, and then Bounty Killer and Beanie Man changed the game where both of them were together doing it. Imagine Teddy Riley and Babyface had the same space doing this. That would have been one of the best verses they had. It probably still was, but different feel. But it was nice to see the Isley Brothers, and the whole. I was introduced to the Isley Brothers, I guess. I had an aunt, Auntie Maria. Listen, she used to play this music all the time. And I used to hate that music when I was young, and I couldn't stand that. I don't know like love song already, but this kind of soulful. I never liked that. But where I get reintroduced to them, I guess, as I was growing up, was through the Mr. Big character, you know what I mean? Where you used to play Mr. Big in them videos and thing, and like you get on to him and the voice and boy or something else. But it was nice to see them performing together. And boy Ernie, like he can't put on that guitar, but he clean, eh? And you know what was interesting watching that? Like how much rap samples come from their fellow songs. Like songs that I wouldn't even think of when you listen to their songs. Whether it's the bass line, the lead line, whatever it is, a lot of them contribute to a lot of the rap that we're listening to now. But overall, it was a real good versus. I guess it's not for everybody. And I kind of was glad when I hear Steve Harvey hosting it, because he's the kind of man, he liked that zone. But oh God, boy, Steve Harvey talk out the whole verses. I see somebody say he wants to be the water in Earth, Wind and Fire so bad. And he was really just moving. He like insert himself into the thing where he just basically is like, hey, this is what I was doing this time. This is what this song was. I make my kids to this song. And I mean, it was a nice vibe, but that was real awkward. And this was the first verses that I saw with a host. Usually it's just the two artists talking to one another or playing off of one another and whatnot. And I find it went well with all the other people who did it. So it was strange that it felt like they needed a host at this time to bring in the songs. And they had the same DJ play for both of them, which was D-Nice, which was good too, because I mean he really lifted up the whole quarantine vibes. But I don't know how I feel about a host in the verses, I don't let it tell me how I feel about it. I want to fight Steve Harvey for real, because he tried to come out there dressed. I mean, he always dressed like one of them. And listen, that man dressed the part and everything to it. It was a full works. It was like a show. So it's showing me as well that while Versus works as an online thing that we could go in and, take in and watch whenever or watch it live, it definitely works as a show where we could do it in person too. Because if we are in person taking in a show like that, forget the host for a second, where you could see the artists deliver their songs and maybe tell a little stories about their song. Well, it was nice seeing Isley Brothers singing backup for some of Earth, Wind and Fire songs, and they telling you what was their favorite songs of the other group and what they were doing when that song came out and how it affect them and their own writing. But listen, that is something else to see, but them men come up with a real good concept. I can't wait to see like local artists, how to go there, right? Do something like that where they could pay each other the respects, and you could imagine them talking about the road marches they lost, and boy, when you bring out that song, I had a next song to bring, but I end up shelving that because this was so good. It would be nice to hear them kind of stories, but all in all, that verses was pretty decent. And again, when they go on Thriller, I know that a big part of verses is hip hop culture because of Swiss Beats and Timbaland. But like I tell my partner the other day, when you see they do Aerosmith versus Grateful Dead or one of them bands, you know what I mean? When they started to do them things, them men go and get a whole next audience and a huge audience to add to the huge audience that they already built. So, I mean, it's always upward for the verses, and I was just glad to be able to take in a piece of it, and it's so nice for us as what I want to call us, a younger generation, to be able to pay respects and show, like, give people their flowers while they're still here, because these artists who they're in here forever. Both bands lost members and stuff. And, you know what I mean? It's nice that we could see them in this space, because I guess it's one of the upsides of COVID. Without COVID, you never seen anything like this. Everybody too busy to pull something like this off. So it was a great move, and uplift my spirits too, because as I'm talking about hip hop, I can't help but like this thing come across my phone with DMX, and boy, just saddening, because he was also one of the people on Versus, and he had one of the best Versus performances. Not because of the songs or nothing, just because of who he is. And listen, hearing him talking about Snoop and the song Snoop, and listen, he know I remember when Snoop said, he's like, DMX, you know my song so good, you're tripping me up. I ain't even expecting you to know, you know what I mean? And he know, like, a real student of hip hop as well as a master. And this news come across that he in serious condition, following an overdose, and that really is the last story that we hear up to the time of recording this. We don't know anything else. Nothing new came out. That was all they said. That and you know, it's TMZ reported first, right? Of course, all they said was that he had a overdose and he is in critical condition. Some rumors came out about him having a heart attack. I'm not sure if that's true. There was also some things that said that I think one of his agents came out and said almost like it's not as bad as we thought, but then they pulled back that story. And now, I mean, the latest thing that we hear, and this based on the New York Times, is that he on life support and in a vegetated state. So as it says here, this from the 4th of April, New York Times. Earl Simmons, the rapper known as DMX, was on life support on Sunday afternoon and was in a vegetative state. Said his former manager, who said he'd been in contact with the family. Mr. Simmons' longtime lawyer said he had been hospitalized over a heart attack. We're just praying. Boy, listen, he's something else to follow, boy. Like, his story is amazing to me, in terms of when he just came out and how huge he was. Like, when you hear other rappers talk about what DMX was able to accomplish in terms of how big his songs were, how big his initial release was, and then to follow that back up with platinum releases like within the same month. And I mean, when you hear 50 Cent or all the other rappers is talk about it, how it was impossible to follow. And if you really like him, whether you like him or not, if you're interested, like, go and check out his Woodstock, I think his Woodstock 99, that performance, and it's something, you know, I always go back to that Bohemian Rhapsody performance when Queen came on as a small band compared to a lot of the other big bands, and they do a set that was ridiculous among giants, led by Freddie Mercury, really. That was how DMX was in that 99 Woodstock performance, boy, and I just rocked the place. And it's so sad, boy. Like, we saw, I guess he would have started long before social media, but we got to see a lot of him on social media, and then on reality TV as well, as he was on, I think it was Couples Therapy, and you get to see a lot of him, and you realize a man with a lot of pain. And I saw a little interview going around this week talking about at 14 years old, he was tricked into using crack. He said he never used to drink, smoke, nothing. And he said he was learning rap and just getting into the game and putting rhymes together and thing. And I think he said they went and robbed some place, and when they come back, a fella who he keeps saying he love. And listen, when he emotional, it's so hard for him to get words out. I always observe that about him. He's be real choked up and extremely emotional talking about certain things, and he was right in that space. And he was basically saying that, you know, the person thing, and they push him and encourage him and peer pressure, and they gave him weed, and it was laced with crack. And you could see the pain when he was talking about it. He said, like, why would you do that to somebody you love? And what I read from that was that he was struggling to get over, like, having battles with drugs over the years. And he goes back to that moment, in my humble opinion, as a point at which if he could have changed it, he'd have just not do it. And to know that he did it unknowingly and maybe get hooked on a substance that affect his whole life and affect everybody around him is just sad, man. To see him talk about that. He was on Drink Champs. I don't know if people I don't know if I ever talk about Drink Champs on this podcast. That's another one of my favorite podcasts too. Like I like to listen to Nori and them talking to rappers because they have a lot of stories in between one another about them times when they were at the top of the game and stuff. And when DMX was on Nori and them show, that man had stories, boy. And boy, we just had to pray for him and hope he pull through. I mean, when you hear somebody in a vegetated state like that, sometimes it's so hard to what you hope for? That they come back and they never themselves, or they just stay a vegetable and they are. Well, I mean, the most they could do is pray for a speedy recovery. And I mean, he's a man of prayer too. So I want to play some of his words that affect me, and I hope in his own words it could reach him and he pull through this.
Father God, we thank you for this gathering of souls. You see that when two or more gather in your name, that you are present, so we thank you for your presence. We ask that your grace and blessings are upon us this day. We pray that any obstacle the devil plans to place in our path be removed in the name of Jesus. We pray that you have your will, have your way in our lives, Father, for we didn't make us, so we couldn't possibly know what to do with us. We thank you for the things that most people take for granted, Father. The air we have to breathe, the food we have to eat, the clothes we have to wear, the cars we have to drive, the money we spend, the lives we touch, and the lives that have touched our own. We ask that we're able to be a blessing to others as well as ourselves. We ask to be reminded of the power in the spoken word, Father, because we can defeat the enemy with the spoken word. All we have to do is remember to say it, remember to use it. The word says, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. The word doesn't say that the weapon won't be formed. The word doesn't say that the intention of the weapon maker won't be to harm you. The word doesn't say that they won't attempt to use it. The word says, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. So no matter what they think, no matter what they make, no matter what they try, by the power of the word, we are covered. We humble ourselves before you. We praise your name and give you the glory. We praise your name and give you the glory. We praise your name and give you the glory. In Jesus' mighty name we have prayed. Amen.
Prayers go up for him. Prayers go up to him and his family. And we just hope, boy, I hope it's a miraculous turnaround and DMX here with us and could figure out some of them things, you know what I mean? He just gives so much. He's one of them rappers where I ain't the biggest rap fan they have, but he's one of them rappers with the lyrics like, just Google DMX the prayer. That prayer I just played was from Breakfast Club, right? It was so relevant to what you're going through now. But just Google DMX the prayer or put it on YouTube and hear how much versions of prayers he have up there. Recorded as songs, as interludes on his albums and stuff. And boy, it's a rough life. But when you think of substances and what it do to people and stuff, it's really a rough thing, boy. I saw recently on the same Breakfast Club, you know, they went to interview a guy by the name of Carl Hart, Professor Carl Hart from Columbia University. And he's basically saying that he's a controlled heroin user. Let me read what he's saying here, right? I'm reading this from The Guardian, right? Now our Guardian, them Guardian. I'm now entering my 5th year as a regular heroin user, writes Carl Hart in his revolutionary new book, Drug Use for Grown-Ups. 54-year-old Hart is the Ziff Professor of Psychology at Columbia University. Regular heroin use and high academic achievement are not two pursuits that we expect to see in the same life story, at least not openly. Heroin is by popular consensus the worst of drugs, the one that leaves users hopelessly strung out and slavishly addicted. How can you be a regular user and hold down a prestige Ivy League professorship? And why would you admit it? As Carl Hart says, I do not have a drug use problem, never had. Each day I meet my parental, personal, and professional responsibilities. I pay my taxes, serve as a volunteer in my community on a regular basis, and contribute to the global community as an informed and engaged citizen. I am better for my drug use. Now, just Google him, right? Carl Hart is pretty popular. The name of his book is Drug Use for Adults. From what I read, what he's trying to say is that abuse of drugs and the way drugs are made could be one of the big problems. In other words, when you're buying heroin on the streets, you don't know what it was contaminated with. So this came to mind when I was thinking about this thing that DMX was talking about with what he experienced at 14 years old. And I think where that is concerned, Carl Hart, I think he's right. Because unless these things are monitored, evaluated, regulated, which means they had to be legalized, we're going to continue to run into problems like those where if you're going and buy it on the streets, who stops the person on the street from diluting it or overpowering it to get you addicted faster, or putting additives in it that might be safe or healthy for your well-being? And you can't help but think if things are regulated and legalized, then we're in a position where we could know exactly what we're going to. It is controlled, it's consistent. So if you're going to buy from one person, but boy, on the flip side of that, like listening to this man talk about that, like, and I hear him asking him down the Breakfast Club too, is like, why not go back to the message that tells people, listen, don't bother with that? Why make, like, you trying to normalize the use of heroin? Like, why? I'm trying to figure out, like, what's the outcome? Is it just to sell books, or is it just... And the thing about it is his professorship is on drug user. So he said that part of why he went on it is to try the things that he was talking about, because he's passionate about the black community and what drugs has done to the communities in the States in particular. But it really make me wonder, boy, like, why not, like, discourage people from using that at all, instead of being a proponent for responsible drug uses or drug use, and talking about, what is this drug use as an adult, drug use for grown-ups? I understand that is naive to shy away from the problem and assume, like, pretend that people not using drugs. And if you do that, it leaves people susceptible to what DMX went through. But I don't know, boy. When you tell impressionable young people that, hey, look at what I've achieved in Columbia University. I'm a professor. I do well in my personal, my parental, and you know what I mean? But as I take heroin every day, it's like, dude, listen, not everybody going to be able to pull through things like that. Like you. Like when I look at stories in Trinidad, like people like Gart Sinclair and Errol Fabian, who I hope to talk to both of them one day. It's so amazing that they have been able to, and I don't want to say get over, because if you ask them now, they'll say they're addicts still, But they're able to lead normal lives and walk away from drugs like those. Like, what would cause you to want to encourage anybody, especially, and I keep going back to young impressionable minds, because if you're a professor at a university, you might be talking to very young and impressionable minds. And if you to use the word normalize, if you're making it seem like it's okay to do this and I'm good, especially when they have a gap between when you're promoting this and when it becomes regulated. So you promote it and say, hey, let's do a little microdosing, let's be okay, and I know what to do. But they don't have access to the pure drugs that you have access to. So if they tell themselves, hey, this is how a man is get through, you know what I mean? What stops them from going and take a little taste and hope to get through? And on where they will get a little taste from, there they get the taste from somewhere that illegal at this point still. So, I mean, that thing just remind me of that story, and going back to it, I really hope that DMX pull through. Let's see how it goes and send our prayers up to him. And while we're over there, and I don't even know if there's a lighter note or a better note or what, because this going a little different than I thought it would have went. I don't know if you all following the George Floyd trial. Now, we closing in on a year ago. This was on the 25th of May last year. And I would say that the world changed in a lot of ways. Now, COVID would be a part of that, if you ask me, where everybody was home and struggling. And I remember Father Gregory talking about this and giving a, I don't want to say a talk, I don't know what to call it really. I was going to say eulogy, but it wasn't that for her uncle of mine, Uncle Victor. Rest in peace, Uncle Victor. But Father Gregory was talking about it, and he was at his funeral, which is a Zoom funeral, and this whole awkward thing that we went through when we first started coming to terms with COVID. And he was talking about George Floyd and what's happening in the States and what started happening here, and a level of consciousness and acceptance of what the world is really like. And you even see it now when you're watching Premier League, you're seeing people still saying Black Lives Matter and reiterating this thing, And one of the things in that, sermon he was given was that a big part of what's happening in the world is people trying to find their purpose. And he was really talking about what was happening in the savannah down here, where people were protesting police brutality and stuff, which was a different fight we have here. Local, coincidentally, I see like they tried to stop Gary Griffith's daughter. Like, why would you do that? You know what I mean? She above the law yourself as a policeman. You really want to buy that fight? But going back to this, the George Floyd thing stopped the world for a minute. And I remember, like, it's one of the main reasons I started this podcast, because I had so much opinions about that and so many other things. I say, you know what, I'm gonna jump on and get it started. And look, we're closing in on a year on that already. And I remember seeing that initial clip with this guy knee on his neck. And I couldn't watch it. It's taken me a while before I could watch these things, because say, you see this stupidness, I don't know, the police killed somebody again, and I didn't want to watch it, because we'll go through the same thing again where you hear about it as a big issue and then it fades to black, like so many different cases before then, right? And I think due to COVID again, because the world, it's not at a standstill, but it's not moving as fast as it would typically move. We end up in a situation where, although it's almost a year from when this happened, we're a couple months shy of a year, we still working from home and slowed down a little bit so we could follow the trial. So I encourage everybody, like, if you go on YouTube, you could see the trial. Just look for the trial and you'll see when it's on live, and you could watch it at longer. Sometimes it's 4 and 5 hours long and thing, but at least check out the clips and the highlights, because don't let it fade. You know what I mean? We have an opportunity to see one through till the end. We should see it through till the end. And what I'm trying to say by that is, so much people came out and protest globally. What would have been non-violent protests and silent protests to violent and very loud protests. All equally important, if you ask me. And I think it would be sad if we allow the trial to go by and nobody pays attention to it. And if things don't, I don't want to say go our way. How do I put this? If justice doesn't seem to be served, I think we need to stand up again and let our voices be heard again, because it's not going to be right. So the first thing I looking at in the trial was I trying to figure out how the defense going to defend this Chauvin guy. All the other three people is a different story, right? But the policeman who had his knee on his neck, Chauvin was his name, right? And as I started listening to what the defense was putting forward, and it's clear that the defense is out there to paint George Floyd as a bad person, an irresponsible person, somebody who was on alcohol and drugs, and you know what I mean? And it's so, like, they're just sounding like they're reaching. Because when they present this thing, they say earlier in the day, the store clerk could clearly see he was drunk or he was high. And then you see video from in the store. They have a lot of footage that coming out now that we've never seen before. It's now coming out with the trial. And you see them in the store laughing with the store clerk and hugging up somebody looking like family and just being a jovial guy. And even if, the thing about it is this, you want to paint him as drunk and on drugs. So what, he was in happy mode, so he was hugging up people and being extra friendly inside. And my thing is, well, that's so what? So what? Let's assume he was on drugs. And let's assume the drugs he was on was illegal and he had the drugs on him. What's the defense really trying to say? That this is punishable by death? You as a policeman can take the law into your own hands and out a man lights because he was on drugs and he drunk. So I think the defense make a real out by starting and opening with that, and little by little it getting chipped away. Keep in mind that he already win a civil settlement of $27 million. But with the trial now as a criminal charge, I want to see what's going to happen to Chauvin, because little by little, as the prosecutors start to build their case, boy, it's sounding strong. I want to see what the U.S. justice system really made of here. Because if, based on what I see in so far, this man walk away with anything but life in jail or something, a very stern sentence. I'm not sure if life is what he will get for this, but a very stern sentence, something serious. We have a real problem. And for the first time, and I would admit that I'm not the one who observes all these trials beginning to end. I think I get an opportunity to do this now because we're still kind of sitting down, you know. But I noticed that several of his colleagues coming out and speaking against it. You know, they said it's blue wall of silence and we support each other and on all this thing. I saw one police officer, he was Minneapolis Police Chief Madaria, it's looking like Madaria Arredondo. I hope I'd say that somewhere near right? He came out and he was talking about it, and he said that clearly is violating the policy by kneeling on the guy's neck. He was basically saying that when you restrain somebody, let's assume you handcuff them or you get them under control. He said you had very little risk. You're taught this, you know what I mean? It's something that they're teaching you when you're doing your training and all that. When you handcuff that person, you say, well, yeah, maybe the person could kick you. And he said, but your life not threatened is the point he was making. And if your life not threatened, why are you using lethal force? It was, I mean, it's so obvious. Like, it's amazing that you even had to talk about this in our trial to me, yes? And then the chief homicide detective, I think his name is Zimmerman, he came out and said basically, listen, this is not what people are trained to do. Those things that he was doing was definitely against policy. He's like absolutely against the policy. And he said that if you knee on somebody's neck, it could kill them. So it is lethal force and it's totally unnecessary. If a man handcuffed any day. And he said it's totally unnecessary to kneel on your neck, and it's also totally unnecessary to be on you for so long. So it's like your own peers and people who in the field, is like they are all fed up. Like they're coming out and they're talking about it. And I mean, I don't want to bring race into it and all that, but all these people we talking about here is different races and so on. And when you look at it, it's just ridiculous. You could have stopped at any point in time. So I'm particularly interested in how this go. I'll be following it, and I'll probably give updates as long as it go around. As long as it's going on, I will come here and bring the updates to it, because I don't think the 27 million is enough. Police like those need to be off the street. And I'm saying those because the main focus of what I'm watching now is on Derek Chauvin. But I want to know what is he seen with the other three. Because I know a few of them were now on the job for the first time. But I always feel like whatever the job might be, your humanity must come in at some point. It must kick in early. Where you see that man on that neck for so long and you had to say, Sarge, you had to get up. No, Sarge, no, you cannot do him that. And this is man to man now. You can't do, sometimes we see a street fight, you see thing going on, and a total stranger will come in between and say, all right, don't kill him, you know what I mean? Those things happen all the time where somebody intervene and say, boy, nah, don't do him that. Don't do him that. But somehow, those three police officers were comfortable standing by there. I want to see what's going to happen with them overall. And you know what's sad about this? Boy, you're seeing the bystanders and the people in the store and them called as witnesses. One in particular is the girl who made the video that made the whole wrong. Thank God for her, and she made that video. But the girl break down on the stand because it take her right back to that place. And she wasn't alone. Several of them break down. There was one guy who, like, he was trying to talk to the police officer. He's like, oh God, cool it now. Don't you know what I mean? And yeah, and these guys breaking down and taking them right back to that space. So anyhow, as I say, I continue to follow it. I'm eager to see beyond that 27 million that his family get. I'm glad that they did get that. But I want to see where the justice will be, because I think it serves two purposes. It making one group of people in the States feel less attacked, at least in Minnesota, but hopefully across the states. And it created a sense of belief in the justice system that I think they really need in America. Black America need that. We need to see something different there. And I mean, even in addition to that, it sends a signal to other police officers who might be corrupt, overzealous. They need to adjust that. These fellas need the proper training and need to understand how to de-escalate. That's one of the points the guy was making too. Nothing he do there was looking like de-escalation because his situation was already under control. So, I mean, let's keep monitoring it. Let's see what has happened, and we'll talk about it as we go week to week. Now, definitely in some lighter notes, this is an episode everywhere because everything is a whole bad news weekend. This is a big Easter weekend. But on a lighter note, you had to go in on Netflix for the Netflix folks, right? And thanks for everybody who's usually sent me recommendations when I ask for them. I appreciate that. But I live in a household where there's a lady living here who picks the worst. Like, when she go on Netflix, her algorithm is just pull up the worst things because she's always watching worst shows. So it just keeps suggesting that. And then she's find you, like when we say we're watching a movie together, she just search what is the worst movie on Netflix, and she's put on that, and we sit down and as we forced to watch this thing. She's terrible at picking shows and so on. But the other night, she put on a show. And listen, you had to watch the show. This is a next level. If you, after this heavy episode, I want to leave you with something funny. So go on Netflix and watch a show called Bad Trip. They're calling it a mashup between Borat and Jackass. I don't want to talk too much about it. I don't want to say too much about it because when she put it on, I didn't know what kind of show it was. If you ever watch Borat, you know what to expect, right? But I thought it was a normal movie. So when I see the first scene of the movie, I was like, babe, what is this? Why are we doing this? What we going through this again with your terrible choices? The only good thing you ever pick is me. So I'm watching this thing and I say, but listen, as you go along, it's bad. You're going to laugh till you cry. I don't want to talk it up too much because then you ain't going to laugh, right? But taking this show, Bad Trip, like you need to be in a zone where you need some funny in your life, or like you take a couple of drinks, you're watching a little show. They come good with this boy. I don't know, Lil Rel already funny on his own. I can't remember the star boy name now. I can't remember the name of the fellow who was the star in the show. But Lil Rel is very, very funny. And Tiffany Haddish was also a lead character in the show. But just like Borat, a lot of the people who in this didn't know they was in a movie. So you know what's the setup there, right? And it's really, really good. You had to take it in. Now, before we go, last thing I want to talk about. What is happening with these convent girls? What convent? Since when convent is a thing? I seen hashtags on Twitter about convent strong. What the hell convent strong? That coming? Why are you thinking convent strong? Boy, listen, anything for, I tell you, we home for too long, anything goes now. What is you have to be so strong about in convent that is convent strong and convent pride? And pride. But there again, let's congratulations to convent and this SJCPOS. 185 years, looking every day of the 185, you know what I mean? 185 years of convent, and these people are very, very proud. They light up the building and they say drive, honk, wave, or dance. I mean, Jesus Christ, how creative could we be? But again, somebody need to explain to me what is convent strong and why is a thing, and why all these schools all of a sudden all they get out and bad. We home too long, you know. Because all of a sudden bishops is this big thing, and bishops and who and Bahas. What's the name of the thing? Bahas? I don't know why them celebrating this sort of Bahas thing. Nobody was known earlier. And convent, all of a sudden, all they join the thing now. And I mean, all they want to know what good schools is about, man. Why are we doing this? And listen, don't come this week like how the Bahas people do. When the people who was proud to go Bahas was basically saying, you know how great a school bishops was and what hilarious do for them and all these nice things. And then, of course, somebody 48 hours later has to say it was an abusive and toxic environment with a lot of gaslighting, and try not to say no millennial terms. As much as I make him a joke about them and think, oh God, Ollie wasn't complaining about convents all the time. The people come 185 years, you come and talk about your bad one day out of the 185 years. The place is a great institution. They raise a lot of people. Apparently, everybody wants convent. We need to have some evidence behind these things now, because I never see something trend on Twitter so fast. But again, congrats to them on the 185. That is a great achievement, and they have a real close sisterhood as a school, which they clearly take pattern after schools like Fatima and so on. All right, I think I done it. I going home. This is a long weekend. I'm tired. I hope everybody have a great short week. And I will see you all next week, Tuesday. Everybody stay safe too. Let me do the right thing now, please. I beg, and I can't take our next lockdown. Let me try and do the right thing so that we come out the next side of this with some, you remember when they used to talk about flattening the curve and getting to the backside of the curve and things? Let me do be backsides now and get to the backside of the curve and try and control this thing so that the doc don't have to come and tell we can't do nothing for 2 weeks, right? Until then, I'll talk to you all next week. Stay safe.